Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Sibir, as it's finally back in the armory. And if you're wondering what this ship is about, well, we're going to two-shot this poor Montana. F key here, giving us 20% better dispersion. You're a Kremlin hull, pretty much. There's one significant difference in armor. Other than that, Kremlin hull with the best secondary hitting DPM of all tier 10 battleships. Much better even than Schlieffen. And that is how you're farming up this F key. Secondary hits are what gain you progress. That allowed us to, just two-shot this Montana, who was on very good HP when we got to him. This is a very powerful tier 10 brawling battleship. It's very unique in that you have the ability to be a very accurate battleship too. Oftentimes when you're playing these secondary brawlers, think Libertad, think GK. I mean, is GK really a brawler anymore? Libertad for sure, even things like the Schlieffen. You don't have the best guns, certainly their accuracy is not great. But to have 9 457s here with the ability to give them 20% better dispersion for 2 salvos, that's right, this F key lasts long enough for us to get 2 salvos, you're gonna have a very good time, let alone the incredible healing this ship is capable of. F key into angled Sibir here, he's broadside enough, we could get citadels, although yeah, that didn't really look like good dispersion, did it? There's aim bugs, okay? There are problems every once in a while, but just know that this ship, in random battles, is an all-in, full-send, better than Kremlin experience. Kremlin, I do think, can give you more output over the long game and more mid-range scenarios. If you're not getting Sibir close range to get these secondaries activated and you're not using this F key then all that often as a consequence, Kremlin is going to be better, okay? It has better dispersion built in, it's got better armor, and over the long haul, it does actually get more healing. The key with Sibir is that you get all the healing up front. So in this game, we are going to be under a lot of pressure for quite a long time, and we don't have to wait a long cooldown to get back to our next heal. We get a minute 40 of healing, and we get access to all of it right up front. That's 68,000 HP on top of one of the tankiest battleships in the entire game for its armor. 113k base HP, F key into a Jaeger. I know, maybe a bit of a waste, but Jaegers are particularly annoying when you're trying to push, so we got to get rid of them very, very quickly. So 26,300 doubloons is what Sibir has come back for. If you remember, a couple months ago, like half a year for the 10th anniversary, Sibir was offered in a 40 or 50k doubloon bundle, something like that. Very happy to see this ship come back. Didn't even take that long. Very exciting that these uncommon ships, as they're being designated, come back relatively quickly and for a much more reasonable price. So 26,300 doubloons, still a lot, but remember, in the armory you do have the option of using a coupon. 25% off any doubloon ship includes Sibir. So you get it just under 20,000 doubloons. Now that's still a lot, but let's remember this is a tier 10 premium or special ship, as all the tier 10 premiums are designated. The only difference there is you don't get baked in credit multipliers. Still earns you decent credits, has reduced repair costs, you can move commanders around for free, you just don't get the built-in credit multiplier. Still does great and allows us to swap commanders for free, which is important as Kuznetsov is one of the best commanders in the game, especially when you're playing a brawling battleship where you're full sending in and often getting down to low HP. We have a very good hull, so that on 10% HP, getting a damage control and a heal is very easy to use on this ship. You're very unlikely to get burst down through that 10% threshold that Kuznetsov activates at. Libertad goes down rather quickly. We light a ton of fires, and that is a bit of a theme with these secondaries. We have the improved accuracy, just like we would see on Schlieffen and Ohio, but just better DPM overall. 72,000 hitting DPM at 10 kilometers. Schlieffen is at 56,000. That's the next best. Ohio is at 44,000. This is a lot of hitting DPM. Now, remember, it's only 22 millimeters of pen on these secondaries. So even with IFHE, you're not getting over that 32 millimeter major threshold for battleships, which Schlieffen can do with IFHE. But we have a 10% fire chance on all of these secondaries, which results in like 27 fires per minute. Absolutely ridiculous pressure at these close ranges. And remember, these secondaries, in my opinion, are secondary to their primary function of getting us this F key. Clausewitz, pretty dangerous. He can full pen our armor in a lot of places. That's okay. Turret traverse is like cruiser level, and then we just F key 20% better dispersion. Get them out of here. All right, Kremlin versus Sibir. A bit of a 1v1, kind of, in this case. Notice we're on 161,000 damage going into this engagement. We're going to rip about 100k off of this poor Kremlin. In a very committed fight, I think Sibir is just better, okay? Kremlin has to deal with those long cooldowns in between its heals. And sure, it's got the fast cooldown damage controls, but that's not as powerful as having all of your healing up front. This is a crazy heal consumable. It's absolutely ridiculous. Look at how fast we're charging up our F key, by the way. When you're in a brawl, you get 2 salvos per F key charge if you're using reload mod, which I would recommend. We'll talk about the build a little bit later. And in that downtime, after you fire the second salvo with this F key, the secondaries hit so often that you just charge up your F key again. So if you're in a brawl, you're actually just getting continuous use of this F key. There really isn't a salvo that you're waiting for that does not have F key. If you're getting into these very close range brawls, which is basically just 20% better dispersion all the time at close range. That's why you need to get close. This Kremlin gets burst down like crazy. In a more mid-range fight where we can't activate these secondaries, it is worse. Okay, I do think it is worse because we have 1.7 Sigma battleship dispersion on Sibir, where Kremlin gets access to 1.8 Sigma on its own special dispersion curve, which is much more accurate at close range. It's the same dispersion as normal battleship dispersion at 15 kilometers, and anything below that, you're just getting better dispersion on Kremlin. So in a more sustained fight where we're not getting that F key, Kremlin is going to do better with those guns and its armor profile, more healing over the long run if Kremlin gets access to all of its heals. But it's not always going to get access to that. Sibir just gets it all the time. Over 50k damage out of just secondaries in that game and from fires as well. So over 100k from just having the secondaries going. And that's really not even the main gimmick of this ship, in my opinion. This F key, these main guns. We need access to that because a broadside Salem, yeah. It's not always going to go your way, unfortunately. Now to brawl a Vermont, a Schlieffen, a Yoshino who's going to be farming us from range. Going to be a Yamato here as well, and that Salem going to be farming us eventually. We're in a little bit over our heads. Not a lot of battleships can deal with this sort of engagement. And Sibir, honestly, is going to go down pretty quickly too, but it's surprising just how long it's going to survive. This isn't like Valparaiso necessarily, where you have so much healing that it's ridiculous. It's got like over 230,000 effective HP. That's not quite how Sibir runs. But remember, we have great armor here. Outside of our deck armor being only 40 millimeters, not the full 60 millimeters like we would see on Kremlin usually. That is the one big advantage on the armor profile. Otherwise, it's the same Citadel armor, upper belt armor. It's all very, very strong in these brawls. Small enough superstructure that we're not eating too much damage to it. And to be honest with you, this is the ridiculous part about Sibir. I'm very surprised they actually made this ship, to be honest with you, is having a Kremlin just bow tank and then having all of this healing up front. It's really not that hard to play. We're going to go down quickly. We're in over our heads, but we're still soaking up a lot of pressure from the enemy. Unfortunately, our team is not going to do too well in this one either. But we're focused a lot by the enemy team. It's going to take them a while to deal with us, alongside us getting some decent damage. Not as much as I would like, considering how broadside some of these Vermonts are going to us at such close range. Remember, it's like 30 degrees is the auto bounce angle, and these Vermonts were not at that angle, unfortunately. We sometimes just get trolled on dispersion. It happens, even with this F key activated. Now the Schlieffen secondaries are getting in here. I mean, it's just ridiculous that we're surviving this long. This ship is not terribly difficult to play, in my opinion. Maybe that's another reason why it could be interesting for you, is that trying to get the most out of a brawl in tier 10 these days, especially in random battles, is very difficult. Even in ships with fast cooldown heals, like trying to brawl Ohio, not really feasible these days. More of a mid-range ship, to be honest with you, focused on main guns. Sibir still allows you to push in. I mean, we got 140k still out of that battle, even when I just full pushed basically the whole enemy team. What about an open water flank? A big downside here being that torpedoes hurt, and we do not have access to a hydro. Well, in this case, there's not too many torps here, and we just live for so long against even open water flanks. It's honestly kind of crazy that they put this ship in the game. I'm glad it's back, and I'm glad it's not like crazy rare, but at the same time, it's a little surprising to me that this ship is so powerful. But this is what you have to do, kind of, to make a ship worth using in a brawl in random battles. It's just a very passive meta, as we've seen. Basically, everything is designed to prevent you from pushing in and brawling. So it's this never-ending power creep, it seems like, this power struggle between the ships that farm down the ships that want to push, and then the pushing ships, tanky enough HP to actually reasonably push in. It's kind of a never-ending arms race. A little crazy. And I think for me, this has got to be my favorite brawler these days. Ships like Valparaiso are very funny. Schlieffen and Libertad with their secondaries are absolutely wild because of their pen allowing them to deal so much damage. Sibir secondaries aren't quite that, but the reason I love Sibir so much more over those ships, it's just the accuracy. This combination of being able to push in and brawl and get to closer range and having reasonably consistent damage output when enemies go broadside. If you know me, it's one of the more frustrating parts about playing this game is when I find someone, the Shirleys, right? The Shirley opportunities, you know what I'm saying? Those ones really get to me. And this ship being able to capitalize on that more often than not, it really just sets it above, in my opinion. Broadside Yamato, 13 kilometers, 14 kilometers. Look at that dispersion, man. It's gorgeous. It's just beautiful. There's another 50k hit. And we hit 8 out of 9 shells there into that broadside Yamato. That is not very common for battleships, let alone brawling battleships. That's really the selling point here, alongside just the purely ridiculous amount of healing. Even if they didn't give us this crazy heal, giving us all our HP up front, which does synergize very well with this all-in strategy. We're barely 5 minutes into this battle and we're already on the enemy's side of the map on the open water flank here. Another 2 sits, and look at our back turret. Best turret? No! What happened there? If you go back and look at my aim point, it was actually slightly above his waterline too. So that rear turret was pure aim bug, unfortunately. So turning away, we've probably over pushed this one, to be honest with you. I can get into some bad situations there, but don't worry, the secondaries got our back. We've already done enough here. I probably should go back and maybe play a little bit more towards that island. But I decided to keep pushing here, and I died rather quickly because now the torpedoes are on us. The last push I have to show for you here is also another one where I really want you to focus in on the difference in our dispersion when we're going from F key to non-F key. This ship simply needs to get its F key activated, which again is through secondaries. You gain a little bit, a very small percentage on potential damage, which I think is a really cool design, by the way. It allows you to retain progress towards your F key if you don't have it. And that's based on tanking damage, which is another thing that synergizes with this ship. So it really all forces you to push in and brawl, which I like. I think that is good design, even if it is a little bonkers, the ability here. Notice we don't have very much charge towards our F key here right now, but look at how quick it charges up on this Annapolis here at close range. We're not getting a lot of full pens because we don't pen his armor with these secondaries, only his superstructure, but it's back in time for us to get the next salvo and dev strike him. And these are just the full Kremlin 457s. Yeah, the dispersion is slightly different, but those AP shells are the exact same. A lot of pen, a lot of alpha damage, and of course that 30 millimeters of overmatch. Now into the Rhode Island here, and a Bremen. Now that's a very scary ship for us to deal with. Not necessarily because of his pen. We do have enough armor to deal with Bremen shells, but there's just a lot of DPM. Can burst us down, and he's caught at 12 kilometers. This should be pretty easy for us. Only 7,000 damage into that one. This is going to be the issue. If you don't have the F key activated, sometimes it feels like the shells are a bit of a shotgun, which I think is good. Maybe they should have gone a little further into that, considering how powerful this F key is and how quickly you can charge it. I don't know. The balance here seems a little bit wild, but we get back to that F key very quickly yet again. I don't know. This is one that I thought was very good when it came into the game, and very fun for a brawling playstyle, especially if you're like me and want some accurate salvos here and there too. And now that it's back, I think this is a pretty easy pickup. It's in ship rotation now. It's just in the normal armory. 26,000 doubloons is quite a lot these days. You know, we no longer have that free doubloons just by playing the game like we did towards the end of 2025. That was pretty cool. Maybe you still have some doubloons from that. It makes the Sibir a pretty easy pickup in that situation. Of course, that coupon offer, 25% off, just under 20,000 doubloons. It's still a lot, okay? Don't get me wrong. That is still an expensive ship, but it's a very, very unique playstyle. And of course, also extremely powerful playstyle. Sometimes they don't give you that, where it's pretty boring ship, but very strong, kind of fits the more passive meta. This one does not. This one kind of goes against that passive meta and still is able to make things work very, very well. Of course, that arms race I was talking about, where there's just this never-ending power struggle between the farming ships and the pushing ships. Right now, feels like the pushing ships are pretty crazy. Things like Sibir, things like Valparaiso, things like Libertad in the game. So I wouldn't be surprised the farming ships come back with a vengeance. Maybe Bremen is enough and Hawaii is enough to do that, but I could see them changing that, going a little further perhaps on that line. Finally, we get the Bremen, a bunch of splashes, and finally the F key shows us the insane damage. There's that overmatch again. Rhode Island trying to finish us off, getting greedy for those front turrets, and we still have time on this F key. I'm very surprised they give you 2 salvos with this F key. 20% better dispersion is crazy for 2 salvos. You don't even get that on things like Satsuma, for example. Nearly get the rest of that Rhode Island there too. Absolutely wild ship. So let's talk about this build. There's a couple ways you can go with it. You can really focus in on those main guns and tankiness, but I think you really should be getting a lot of these secondary upgrades. It's much more impactful to upgrade the secondaries almost as much as you can, because this F key is just so good. So that's why I'm not even taking aiming systems mod 1 here. We could get 7% dispersion, or we could just more easily get 20% dispersion for 2 salvos. And in my games, I've tried it with both in the past. In my games, I've found this to just work way better. That 20% dispersion is just way too valuable on these main guns. So getting the range out to 11.6 here feels incredibly strong. The other thing is, should you run then full secondaries, right? You get it even faster because of the reload mod here, giving us 20% better secondary reload. It also buffs our AA, which maybe is useful. Not particularly, but could be. No, I don't think so, because main armaments mod, or main battery mod 3 here, 12% better reload, means this 33-second action time of 20% better dispersion, off spawn, we always get 2 salvos. Now, I have run it without and gone the secondary reload because just run AR, right? Just get Adrenaline Rush, few points of HP gone, and you're getting that second salvo anyway. The thing is, it's really hard to get that until you're around like half HP or so because of, one, some lag in the game. The other thing is you're not always going to fire that salvo instantly when you get your F key activated. It's hard to time that exactly perfectly, and this gives you just a little bit more time to activate your F key, make sure your aim is exactly right, and then fire. And then still get trolled by aim bugs some of the time. At least you get the follow-up salvo, like we showed on many salvos in this video. Absolutely crazy 2 salvo people, like that full health Montana pretty much. Also notice here with the commander build, it's very easy here on the commander. Of course, Kuznetsov, extremely good because of this will to victory talent. Absolutely insane buff on a ship like this one. But it's very easy to run a brawling battleship commander. So often when you're running secondary builds on other ships, you want 4 4-point skills. You want fire prevention, you want concealment, you want the extra heals, and you want manual secondaries. You want long-range secondaries, and you want AR. So these 2 are your 3-pointers, and then you want 4 4-pointers. That is impossible. That is just not possible with the 21-point commander system. Here, though, this doesn't buff our heal at all, so we can skip it for free. Unlike basically every other secondary brawler battleships, we don't have to make a decision. We don't have to sacrifice conceal. We don't have to sacrifice fire prevention, or we don't have to sacrifice manual secondaries on this ship. Absolutely crazy. We can easily take something like vigilance because we don't really need this to get back to our heals and damage control that much quicker. It's useful, but not as useful here, again, for that same reason. We get our healing all at once. Vigilance is excellent, buffing our torp protection as well as not giving us hydro, but helping us against those torpedoes. Turret traverse, maybe that's an issue. No, we just get like a little worse than cruiser level turret traverse. 34.5 seconds is, and reminder, the reload mod nerfs that, by the way, by 13%, and it's still under 35-second turret traverse. The ship is crazy. The ship is absolutely wild. We don't really need to swap to the HE because the overmatch. This gets us back to our heal a little bit quicker. To be honest with you, you could probably go demo for even more fires on these crazy secondaries. 10.5% with this build. It's a wild ship. Absolutely crazy. Here is the armor profile. 40mm deck armor. That is the only difference to Kremlin armor. Otherwise, upper belt, belt armor, bow, stern section, superstructure, it's all the same. 60mm on Kremlin deck armor, which is a big advantage. Okay, there's plenty of ships that have like 42 to 55, 51mm HE pen that will get through Sibir. There are a few airstrike ships that will get through Sibir that will not get through Kremlin armor, that kind of thing. There are some advantages there. That is something to consider, but in a very bursty engagement, in a very committed engagement, where you don't have that luxury of being able to back off and heal a little bit, take some time to get through your heals, where Kremlin would be more advanced in an advantage. Sibir just lets you all in fights. The ship is going to win the vast majority of those. You can't do too many of them, right? So in the very, very long games, you will run out of heals, and then you have a little bit less healing than Kremlin overall, but not even by that much, to be honest with you. Absolutely crazy. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm very excited that this ship came back. I don't like Wargaming's FOMO mechanics. I don't like their overpriced Admiral bundles, or, I mean, the worst is when they're gambling only. So I'm very happy to see Sibir come back to the armory. Actually, let me just show you. It's here. It's already on this account, of course, but if we go to here, 26,300. Remember to wait for this 25% off coupon. It resets every 6 months, maybe every quarter. I'm not sure, but definitely use that on Sibir. 26,300 gets you just under that 20,000 doubloons. Still a lot, but a very, very unique brawling battleships that gives you accuracy and tankiness alongside the crazy secondaries and brawling power. It's wild. The ship is very, very good and well worth saving up for if you're interested in that playstyle. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.